So Arpita, thank you so much for joining me today. You're somebody I know throughout the industry, and we have a lot of mutual connections. And I know especially you're very well thought of across the IR and detection space. You're very heavily invested in WISIS, which I've recently got involved in through yourself. And I know that you're a big advocate of the cybersecurity community. It's really impressive to see what you've done throughout your career so far. And you've just joined a new company in a really exciting role. And the idea behind this session is inspirational security professionals that have maybe navigated a different type of route to get to where they're at today. So really pleased to have you on this, and yeah, excited to ask you some questions.
Thank you. My pleasure. And likewise, I think we've had this working relationship over the last few years, and I'm really grateful to the opportunities that you bring to our community at WISIS and the cybersecurity community in general. I have always, every time I see one of your comments or messages or posts and positions, I'm like, wow, that's a meaty topic. So yeah, I'm really happy that I get to be part of this conversation, and hoping I provide some common touch points for everyone listening in, be like, aha, that's me too. So if I can deliver that, my job's well done today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm going to run through some questions today that are around different questions that are around kind of how you got into the community, right through to people that motivate you, because I think the agenda around this is around kind of awareness and showing that there's so many different career paths. And I want some inspirational female leaders in my network to share their stories. So let's get started with the first question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Good stuff. So first question, what was the career path to where you are now?
So it's been an interesting journey. Over the last couple of years, I've been in security, the breadth and depth of it. One of my previous bosses kept mentioning that you have to be a T kind of a person in cybersecurity, where you need to know the whole breadth, but you also need to have your own specialization. So over the years, I've worked at companies that sell security products. I've worked at companies that use those products. I've worked at companies that are just coming up and startups and trying to make a space in the competitive business. And all of them have this common theme that security is holistic, and there's not one way to secure and make your organization the best. It truly is a mix and match of everything. So coming to where my first few jobs actually were very computer science, very academic. I'm not a hacker in a hoodie, and I don't come from that background at all. I started off as a regular computer science student, did my undergrad in India. That was computer science background through and through, no computer security degree or coursework at all.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved to UPenn in the East Coast, and there also I was a very rigorous through and through master's in computer science. But I happened to meet a professor there, and I really wanted to get involved in the kind of projects that lab was doing, and that's how I started off my first break into cybersecurity, if you could call it. So
nice.
That's been my journey. My first few jobs or my first few projects were mostly building security products and software engineering. And then I moved on to the other side, that's helping organizations secure themselves with those products that you build and it's in the market. And then I expanded that to cover all aspects of security, privacy, and compliance, and lead a small team to in a startup where we used to wear multiple hats of like privacy questions, compliance questions, security questions, incident response, and all of them in one whole thing. And now I'm at Databricks, like you mentioned. I lead the incident response team there, and Databricks provides a data platform to all companies to use the data, which puts us at a very strategic position.
Awesome. Yeah, as you mentioned, you've had an incredible career to date, especially within the last couple of years, driving security programs and people, Mapbox, and then most recently with Databricks, which kind of are going on an incredible journey right now, and need absolute rock stars like yourself to kind of secure the future. So especially for data. However, what have been some of the challenges that you faced on this career path? Obviously, you're at a really great stage of your career, but what challenges have you faced kind of on this journey?
I think so a disclaimer, everyone has challenges, everyone faces some of the other kind of problems, and we all think like it's happening only to me. So while I say what my challenges are, I encourage everyone listening in to step up, speak up about those problems, and chances are that more often than not, someone else is facing similar situations too. My problems are also very common. I think mine in the beginning was getting my first break. Security projects run the cycle where you need experience to get into it. If you don't have experience, you can't get into it. And breaking into a specialized domain like cybersecurity only amps up that problem much higher. And the way I got around that problem was, like I mentioned during my master's, I said, listen, I'm willing to work for my professor in the lab at whatever cost it may be, even if it's free of cost, just because I want to get started somewhere in cybersecurity. And my first project there was a research project with key logging on different devices and finding out who's key logging you when you have those virtual keyboards. So very interesting topic, got paid almost nothing, but that gave me a break, or like the first break or a foot in the door. That's first. I think over the years, the other constant thing that I've seen in myself and others around me is fighting imposter syndrome. It happens even to me every now and then. Over the years, I've gotten better at acknowledging it in my head and be like, okay, I know what this is. I'm scared. I don't know what I signed up for. It's something very exciting, something very uncomfortable, but I think I'm gonna, if I give it my best shot, I'm gonna get across the bridge. So that imposter syndrome is very limiting, and the only way to work around it is to recognize that it happens to almost everyone and just keep moving. Soon enough, people who hired you have hired you for a reason, and you will start seeing that in you as well. You'd be like, yeah, I could do all of that stuff. So that's been my constant, and even now, sometimes I see that in myself, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us listening in would have seen that in themselves too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for for your honesty and kind of your transparency there. It's very refreshing. And I think a lot of people that go through the same thing, but a lot of people are grateful to have you in the cybersecurity community. So I think
pleasure.
You're doing great. What professional advice would you give to a younger self if you were to start again?
Yeah, I think pretty much like the last two things that I touched upon, like the challenges. It's okay to be afraid of what you have signed up for. It's okay to have imposter syndrome, but you have to find ways to grow, and you have to find ways to overcome or acknowledge and keep getting past that fear in yourselves. The second thing I think I should have learned sooner is understand the business of the company you're trying to secure. Engineering, we could be building the best product, but if it doesn't suit or doesn't fit someone's market needs, it's not gonna take off. It's not gonna go anywhere. So the sooner you understand how what you're building is impacting, or how does it impact the company you're working for, which gives you your paycheck, the better alignment it is. The third thing that I also often see missing in our community is, it's a muscle that requires practice, is empathy. When we are coming in as security consultants in a project, or like an incident has happened, we are on fire, we're fighting that fire. It's very common to look at a developer and be like, what did you just do? But you have to have that context, that empathy in your mind, that everyone's trying to do their best. No one's coming in and thinking, I want to break my company today, right? Everyone's trying to do their best. So when you walk up, have that context, have that conversation in a way that you acknowledge the other person's hard work and effort. You also acknowledge that you're trying to criticize someone's work in a way, in a very indirect way. And people will not listen to you if you just walk up to them and be like, well, we think security thinks you should do so, so you should do so. No one's gonna, you won't get any buy-in for that. So be empathetic. And security, like everybody, like we've often heard, is a human problem. It genuinely is a human problem first, a technical problem second. So yeah, be aware of what you're conversing and the context there.
No, I love that. I think kind of empathy, I see a lot of people kind of sharing similar stories, especially if there's been an incident or a breach. I just see so many people jump to kind of to point fingers, and kind of, that's the point where empathy is needed across the community and for within the team. You touched upon community there, Arpita. I think a big thing, and we met through the cybersecurity community, and we've been involved in different events, which has been really cool so far. What outside of kind of your career or outside of work has really helped you in that professional journey?
Yeah, and you're right on. It is community. I find a lot of shared stories, a lot of shared struggle, a lot of shared victories in our community. And the more so for me, that's been a big thing. Like the more I network, the more I meet people, the more sometimes, like we have this block that, oh, small talk in a conference is very hard. You don't have to. And that's the reason I volunteer at places. It's so much more organic way of building authentic connections. That really has helped me outside of work in knowing what others are up to, what other cool projects are there, what's common struggles, and knowing that, okay, I'm not the only one. It's something more prevalent, and exchanging notes, exchanging our victories, exchanging our small wins, all of that inspire me. And every time, which is why I love the cybersecurity community, and I really feel we have a demand supply problem. We need more people, and so please join us. Please reach out to us wherever you can. Most of us are more than happy to help, give you a hand and bring you into this community. The second thing, actually, another thing outside of work that really helps me is traveling, I would say. Traveling gives me the perspective that there is life beyond day-to-day work. There's struggles beyond day-to-day work. There are the countries which are torn apart by war and don't have the luxury of 3 times a day, a meal 3 times a day. And that kind of perspective gives me the stability when I'm fighting incidents. Like, it is an incident. It's not life or death, and those kind of situations. And believe it or not, that actually helps me think more efficiently during incidents. When I'm not panicked, when I know it's not the end of the world, I'm thinking more clearly on how to solve and get us moving and triaging an incident. So these 2 things put together, shared experiences and perspectives through traveling, I would say, really I bring back to myself when I'm working.
No, I love that. I'm just taking some notes here because I think it's so true. Like, you talk about empathy, you talk about kind of perspective. Like, you're the first person that I've said that kind of when all the bells and whistles and everything's red in an incident, that you put yourself into kind of perspective and kind of relativity around it. So yeah, I hadn't heard that before, but I really, really like that. Thanks again for kind of being so honest and transparent. It's really cool.
My pleasure.
I guess my last question is, like, you're clearly very motivational to a lot of people around you, the community and kind of colleagues, and hopefully people that are starting their journey can see this and share that story. But who motivates or inspires you?
A lot of people. A lot of my, I'm constantly learning from my colleagues, from the architects I've worked with, from my previous managers, bosses. And I honestly feel like every human has one thing I can learn something from them. And I think I carry bits and pieces of everybody's wisdom in my journey. And those are the shoulders of the giants I'm standing on. But that said, I think I still have one very solid mentor throughout my life, and that's been my mother. For context, she's she was also into engineering 30 years ago in India, which is very few women at that point of time were doing what she was doing. And, she started off a career fixing telephone exchanges in the middle of nights in some remote areas, camping overnight, and those kind of things. Like her field operations work was really field operations.
Yeah.
And and she retired a few years ago as Deputy Director General Telecom, serving BSNL for like 30 plus years. And throughout those years, I remember I spent my childhood days sometimes, like in networking exchanges, putting in, plugging in, and looking at the hums of routers around me. So I think throughout the years, she has preached that it doesn't have to be one or the other. You could be an engineering loving person, you could be a sari loving person, you could love your family as much, you could smile, you could be polite and still scare people out of their wits. So I think she leads and still does by showing that you can have it all, and there really is no limit to what you can be as a personality. And you don't have to be a kind of engineer, it could be any kind of engineer.
Absolutely. Well, that's certainly an inspirational leader, and yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure she's also very proud that you took the engineering route as well.
Well, we'll see. You ask her how good a daughter I've been, and she has a list of things she doesn't want me to do. But no, she's a constant mentor and inspiration in my life.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that with me, and thank you for being so honest with your answers. And really enjoyed the session today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.